for now, we are done using the books table. We will start to use the customers table that we recently created. And just to get a feel of what the customers table looks like, let's print out the first 20 records of the entire table. So, let's run this. All right, and let's take a look at our table. So we have 5 columns. We have the customer ID, we have the name of our customers, and that's within the customer name, and we have the first and the last name. We have the order amount, the city, as well as the country. For us to find patterns, let's sort our records, and let's sort the record using the customer name. So select, still going to do the same thing, select top 20. Now we can buy. Right, so when we do this, we can begin to see some patterns. If you look at the customer name, so it appears that we have customers who has made multiple purchases or orders. So we have Brenda Holloway with 2 purchases, and we know it's the same Brenda because the customer ID is the same. We have Claire Rudolph as well, who has made multiple transactions, Diksha Singh, Eric Crabtree, and Frank Cheeker. What we can also quickly deduce is that our customers seems to come from different countries, or at least we have a wide range of countries. We have Turkey, Canada, the Netherlands, United States, United Kingdom, Nigeria. Okay, so by doing this, we have a quick snapshot of what our data set looks like or what our table looks like before we begin to perform any type of analysis on the table. To see how we use the having clause alongside the group by clause, our first task would be to find out the total amount that is spent or that was spent in Canada. So if you look at our order amount, this shows the total individual amount that is spent by this individual customers, depending on the country in which they are. So another way, let's print out let's select order amount from customers, and let's say where country equals Canada. Now this is not what the task we have to solve, but I just want to illustrate something. So right now these are all the amount that is spent in Canada, and what we want is, we don't want a list of all the amounts, we just want a figure that sums up all of the amount that was spent in Canada. So how do we do that? So there are 2 main actions we need to take to find out or to solve this problem. The first is that we know we need to add up all of the values within Canada, so all of the amounts, so all of what we see here. And I'm not saying we manually add that up, but that's really what we need to do. So we need to use the sum function to add up all of the values. The other key action is that we need to group our column, which is we need to group our country column, because when we group, then we're able to perform the aggregate function, which is the sum on all of those values within that group. So let's start with our select keyword, and we want the sum of the order amount, and we can use an alias for this, and we'll come back to the alias. So we want the sum of the order amount. We want to see the countries, so country, and then from customers, And what we want to do is now to group. We want to group by, it should be an N here. So group by country. And if we were to just run this query that we have right now, it will give us a partial result of what we're trying to do. Now it tells us that Canada, which is, we're trying to find the total amount spent in Canada, is 5,935, and that's really the result we're looking for. Except that we don't want a list of all the countries. We just want, for Canada, we just want to set the value for Canada. And this is where the having clause comes to play. Because with the having clause, now we can add one or more conditions to this result set that we've received, that's been printed out. And all we need to do is we just type having country equals Canada. So what this is saying is that get me this result set, which is what we have here, but I'm adding one more condition. I only want Canada. I don't want the result set where the country is Canada. And now we can add our alias here as, say, total amount spent. So let's run this. And now it gives us the result that we want. So just to reemphasize again, the having clause allows us to add one or more condition to the result set of our group by clause. Let's try another example. What if we want to find out within our table or data set the customers that have spent over 3,000 in total? So when we look at our table, and now I'm just printing everything from the table. So we have all those customers, and we know we have customers who have made multiple purchases. So we're not talking about just one individual purchase, but in total. So for instance, we have Frank Cheeker. If we add this up, is it over 3,000 or not? So what we're trying to do is we want to retrieve from our data all of our customers that are spent over 3,000. Maybe we want to give them some coupon, we want to give them some points, some sort of membership loyalty reward point, just to thank them for being a loyal customer or for being high shopper. So how do we retrieve that information from our table? So let's write this. Find customers who spend over 3,000 in total. All right. Okay. So, and thus we know we need to print out. We need the name of the customer, and we need to also print out the amount they've spent. But because we want the total amount they've spent, so we have to use the sum function as well. So we start with select, and we can start with our customer name. And now we want the sum of other amounts. And then from customers. Now we want to group by customers. Group by customer name. Okay. And now again, if we were to run this, this gives us the list. I'm just going to pull this up. This gives us the list of all of our customers and a sum of all of the transactions they've made. If you look at Frank Cheeker, which I believe made multiple transactions, we're not seeing the individual transaction. It's been summed up now. The next step is we only want to print out customers who have spent over $3,000 with our company. And all we need to do is we use the keyword having, and then we'll use having the sum of other amounts and would use the greater than sign. And in the subsequent video, we'll be looking into logical operations, and we'll talk more about the greater than and less than sign and how we use them. But for now, just stick with me. Just use the greater than sign in 3000. Okay. So what we're saying is, once you print out this from this result set, I want you to now only give me customers that have spent above $3,000 by using this greater than sign. Greater than 3,000, this is now going to print out to us customers who spent in total over $3,000. And we can also just order this. So we order by, let's give this an alias. We'll call this, let's call it total spent. I'll use as total spent. And now we can order by total spent. And let's do the sending. So when we run this, so now we know that Frank Chicker spent $4,689 or whatever currency we choose to use, and he would be the one who spent the most, and everyone else, they've all spent over $3,000, and now we can, whatever we choose to do, in terms of promotion or some sort of appreciation, we can then, send them an email with a coupon or, a gift card or whatever the case may be. Finally, let's find out the average amount spent by our customers that are from Nigeria. So, and what we want to do as well is we want to see the number of transactions they've done. So not just we want to see the total amount they've spent, but we also want to see, did they do one transaction? Was it two transactions? Was it three transactions? Whatever that is. So we want to see the total number of transactions, and we want to see the average amount that was spent on all of those transactions. Okay, so let's say find the average amount spent by customers in Nigeria and the total number of transactions. Okay, it's a long one. All right, so we know we need to print out the name of our customers. So select customer name, and would like to see the average of the amount they've spent, so average of order amount. And we also want to see the total number of transactions they've done. So is it one transaction? Is it two transactions, three transactions, whatever the case may be. And for that, we'll use the count function. And we'll just say count all, because we know this counts each record within the table. And we'd like to print out the country as well. Now, let's say from customers. And we want to group by, we'll group by our customer name and as well as the country. And this is where we now use the having clause. And I would say having country equals Nigeria. And if we want, we can order, let's give this an alias. I'm going to call this as average amount spent. And now we can order by average amount spent, and we can do descending. Actually, let's just do the default ascending. All right, before we run this, let's quickly go through the query. So we're printing out our customer's name if there are multiple, and we want to see the average amount they've spent, and we're going to name that column average amount spent. We want to see the total number of transactions, if it's 1, 2, 3. We want to print out the country, and then we want to group by our customer name as well as our country. And then we want to only retrieve our clients or our customers that are based in Nigeria. And then we'll order by the average amount they've spent. Let's run this. And we see that we have 2 customers in Nigeria, Frank and Femi. And we can see Frank has done 3 transactions, and the total amount is 1,000. Well, the average amount is $1,563, and Femi has done a total of just 1 transaction with $3,300. So on average, it looks like Femi spends more than Frank. If we wanted to see the total amount, and just to show you, if we were to let's copy the same query, and instead of having it as average, if we did a sum, we probably would see there's a good chance that Frank spent more, but because we were looking for average, we just want to see the average amount of spent. But if we run this as the sum, now we see that it's, Frank has spent, 4,689, but Femi has 3,300.